The moment I realized my HOA president had crossed the line, was the night I watched him unlock my front door and walk into my house like he owned the place. But what he didn't know was that every camera in my home was recording him. And that mistake would eventually destroy his entire career. 3 months earlier I had moved into a quiet neighborhood called Maplewood Heights. It looked like the perfect American suburb. Clean streets. Perfect lawns. Neighbors walking their dogs every evening. After years of living in a crowded apartment, this place felt peaceful, but there was one thing the real estate agent barely mentioned. The HOA. And more specifically, the man who ran it. Daniel Harper. 2 weeks after moving in I received my first letter. A bright red envelope that read, HOA. Violation notice. Apparently my trash bin had been visible from the street for 7 minutes longer than allowed. 7 minutes. At first I thought it had to be some automated warning system. But the next morning at exactly 7:06 a.m., someone knocked on my door. When I opened it, a tall man stood there holding a clipboard. Perfect haircut. Perfect polo shirt. And the most serious expression I had ever seen. Good morning, he said. I'm Daniel Harper, president of the Maplewood Heights HOA. Then he pointed toward my yard. Your grass is above the approved height. Before I could respond, he bent down and pulled a ruler from his pocket. And actually measured my grass. Half an inch too tall. That was the moment I realized something. Daniel Harper didn't just enforce HOA rules. He was obsessed with them. Over the next month the violation notices never stopped. Mailbox paint slightly faded. Garage door open too long. A delivery package sitting on my porch. Even my porch light was apparently too bright for neighborhood standards. It felt like Daniel spent his entire day watching my house. One afternoon while I was mowing the lawn, my neighbor Lisa walked over. She lowered her voice before speaking. Let me guess, Daniel Harper? I nodded. Lisa sighed. He's been doing this for years. Apparently Daniel had been HOA president for almost 5 years. During that time he had turned the neighborhood rules into something extreme. People didn't challenge him. Because if they did, their mailbox would be filled with violation notices the next day. Then something strange happened. About 6 weeks after moving in, I came home from work and immediately noticed something was wrong. My front gate was open. I always lock it. At first I thought maybe I had forgotten. But then I noticed my kitchen light was on. I was sure I had turned it off before leaving. A strange feeling started building in my chest. Slowly I walked inside the house. Everything looked normal. But something felt different. A chair slightly moved. A kitchen drawer open. Then I walked into my office. And my laptop screen was on. That's when I knew. Someone had been inside my house. My hands were shaking as I opened the security camera app on my phone. The footage from earlier that afternoon started playing. At 2:18 p.m. someone walked up to my gate. When I zoomed in, my stomach dropped. Daniel Harper. The HOA president. He looked left. Then right. Then casually opened my gate. Like he owned the place. He walked straight to my front door. Reached into his pocket. And pulled out a key. A key to my house. The hallway camera showed everything. Daniel walked inside slowly, looking around like he was inspecting a crime scene. He opened drawers. Checked cabinets. Looked through my shelves. At one point he even picked up a photo frame from my desk and studied it. Then he walked into my office. And stayed there for almost 9 minutes. When he came back into the hallway, he looked directly at the camera. And smiled. Then he left. Locking the door behind him. 5 minutes later an email appeared in my inbox. From the HOA subject line, final violation warning. According to the email, Daniel had conducted an official property inspection. Inside my house. Apparently I was running a home business that violated HOA regulations. I stared at the email for a moment. Then I started laughing. The HOA president had literally broken into my house just to find violations. That's when I called the police. When the officers arrived, I showed them the footage. They watched the entire video in silence. Finally, one officer looked at me and said, "That's illegal entry." They asked if Daniel had permission to enter my home. No. Then they asked the most important question. "Do you want to press charges?" My answer was immediate. Yes. The next morning the entire neighborhood was buzzing. Police cars were parked outside Daniel Harper's house. Neighbors stood outside watching from their driveways. For the first time since I had moved there, Daniel Harper didn't look confident. The police questioned him for almost 2 hours. But the investigation didn't stop there. Because once the police started asking neighbors questions, the truth about Daniel began to come out. One neighbor said Daniel once entered their backyard while they were on vacation. Another neighbor said he threatened them with thousands of dollars in HOA fines. But the biggest discovery shocked everyone. Daniel wasn't just abusing HOA rules. He was stealing from the HOA. Every violation fine collected from residents went into the HOA account. But part of that money was secretly labeled as a management bonus. And guess who controlled that bonus? Daniel Harper. Over the years he had quietly taken tens of thousands of dollars. Money that belonged to the entire neighborhood. 3 days later police cars returned. This time they weren't asking questions. They were making an arrest. The entire neighborhood watched as officers walked Daniel Harper out of his house in handcuffs. The man who spent years controlling everyone was now sitting in the back of a police car. And the craziest part? It all started because he decided to break into my house. Within a week Daniel was removed as HOA president. The neighborhood held a new election. Lisa ran for the position. And she won easily. Her first speech was simple. This HOA exists to help the neighborhood, not control it. For the first time since I moved there, the place actually felt peaceful. As for Daniel Harper, the last thing anyone heard was that he quietly sold his house and moved away before the court case finished. No goodbye. No apology. Just gone. Turns out breaking into someone's house to find violations was the biggest mistake of his life.